And let's go to the Wise Lines and play with Ian Castleberry. And we got a few things to get to. It's all presented by Andrea and Greg and the whole staff at VistaNet Telecommunications. Ian, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you, Pat?
Good, man. We got lots going on, man. We're just rolling right through this today. And some interesting baseball headlines to get to, my friend. So let's start with the Red Sox. Okay. Do not take the interim tag off of new manager Ron Roenicke out of respect for baseball's ongoing investigation into the team's alleged cheating in 2018. Okay, this is weird. I mean, is Roenicke being investigated? To me, it makes little sense, Ian, and maybe you can clear it up. I mean, the Astros hired Dusty Baker. We all know what they went through, right? And he's not an interim manager. So what's up in Beantown with Roenicke?
Yeah, I think Major League Baseball is still investigating the Red Sox. A little bit surprising that they haven't completed that investigation yet. Maybe that's because more stuff keeps coming out about the Astros. Unless it's determined that Roenicke somehow knew about this sign-stealing scheme as Alex Cora's bench coach. Naming him interim manager was a no-brainer. He's right there on the staff. He's familiar with all the players. The players like him. He has plenty of managerial experience, 5 seasons with the Brewers, won a division title, plenty of coaching experience, especially for the Angels under Mike Scioscia, coached with Dave Roberts and the Dodgers. But I think that maybe this is just the Red Sox waiting to see what this investigation entails. Maybe also waiting to see how the team responds to Roenicke amidst this roster upheaval, losing their best player in Mookie Betts, losing one of their top pitchers in David Price. Does Roenicke still have control of the clubhouse? Or will he be able to see the clubhouse lead the team through this transition? Or after all the smoke clears, will the Red Sox and new general manager Chaim Bloom decide to go in a different direction, maybe with somebody like Jason Varitek, which would be very popular with Red Sox fans?
Yeah, this is a lot of uncertainty heading into spring training, Ian.
Absolutely. And certainly this is one reason why the Red Sox had to get this taken care of now. Roenicke, again, with managerial experience, does have experience running the team in spring training, running a team in spring training, I should say. And it is a lot of uncertainty, but the main questions that hung over the Red Sox pending this investigation have presumably been answered. We know now, the Red Sox know Mookie Betts isn't going to be there. David Price isn't going to be there. They do have some payroll room now getting under the luxury tax threshold, which was the Red Sox's biggest concern. So I think having Roenicke still on as interim manager, I think provides a little bit of stability. The Red Sox didn't need to or apparently want to make a clean break like the Astros did with Dusty Baker. And I think had they brought in a new manager from the outside, that would have been a bit more disruptive than the direction they're choosing to go in right now.
Yeah, boy, the Red Sox. After all of this, when the dust settles in, I can't imagine that it's going to be a great year in Beantown. And, and here's Roenicke, it's like he's left in charge to kind of clean up this mess. And he's got the interim tag attached to him. Has he commented on this at all?
He has not. I am not certain as to what the terms of his contract was. Alex Cora was under contract through 2021 with a club option for 2022. I don't know if his coaching staff was under contract for the same terms. So I would think at least Roenicke is under contract through the end of this season. That's not always a good situation in terms of having some authority in the clubhouse. If players, think you might not be around, if they think a manager is a lame duck. But again, without anybody out there that I think was really screaming to be an obvious candidate for the Red Sox, Roenicke hasn't commented on it. I think he's being a good company man, good soldier, however you want to put it, and sees an opportunity to manage what will be a lesser Red Sox team, but could still be a pretty good club with some talent and certainly more financial resources. A better situation than had he gone out on the open market and sought another managerial job himself.
Sure. Ian, I want to get to this too, as pitchers and catchers are getting ready to report to spring training. Which teams, now that the offseason is pretty much done, which teams did the most to improve themselves during the offseason?
I think you have to look at the Chicago White Sox, really the top of the AL Central, both the Chicago White Sox and the Minnesota Twins. I think, improve themselves significantly. The White Sox, arguably the offseason champions. They added Yasmani Grandal, Dallas Keuchel, Gio Gonzalez. They re-signed Jose Abreu. The Minnesota Twins got one of the top free agents available in Josh Donaldson, and also added Homer Bailey and Rich Hill to a starting rotation that also includes Michael Pineda, Jake Odorizzi, Luis Barrios is their ace. I think Twins fans might have liked to see their team bring in more of an ace-type starting pitcher, but I think they built depth at the bottom of their rotation, which should be really good. The Dodgers, they added one of the best players in baseball in Mookie Betts and David Price. Maybe he can turn himself around with that Dodgers coaching staff. Maybe load management is a popular term in the NBA, but the Dodgers have actually kind of engaged in that practice when it comes to their pitchers as well. You know, you don't see Dodgers pitchers logging 200 innings and 32 starts anymore, and David Price might thrive in that environment. And then you also have to say New York Yankees. They got the best pitcher on the market. They needed starting pitching. They got the best guy in Garrett Cole.
All right, on the flip side, which teams did themselves no favors this offseason?
We just talked about the Boston Red Sox. They lost their best player, Mookie Betts. They lost, one of their top two starters in David Price, plus this investigation hanging over them. They lost Alex Cora, their manager. Not too many teams had a worse offseason than the Boston Red Sox. I think you also have to look at the Chicago Cubs. They didn't sign any free agents. They're still talking that they might trade Chris Bryant. The Cleveland Indians traded away Corey Kluber. The St. Louis Cardinals, they didn't make any additions either. They lost Marcelo Zuna to the Braves. Really, every team in the NL Central, besides the Cincinnati Reds, had a pretty bad offseason. And I think there's a team that sort of is in the middle between best and worst. Maybe the defending world champion, Washington Nationals. They lost their best player in Anthony Rendon, but signed Starlin Castro, Eric Thames, brought back guys like Howie Kendrick and Asdrubal Cabrera, kind of try to keep the band together, and also improve their bullpen with Will Harris. So I don't know if I would say the Nats had a great offseason after losing Rendon, but in bringing back Steven Strasburg and some of the other key pieces of that World Series team, I think you could say they had a solid offseason.
All right, there you go. See, that's why we ask you these tough questions, Ian. Ian Castleberry hanging with the wise guys, and he always answers them. Of course, presented by VistaNet Telecommunications. Hey, what's up with Braves pitcher Cole Hamels? You know, he signed with the team a one-year free agent deal for $18 million back in December, but he's not heading to spring training right away, Ian?
Yeah, Cole Hamels has developed a shoulder irritation before reporting to spring training. Reportedly, he felt some sort of discomfort while he was working out with the medicine ball. Something didn't feel right in that shoulder. The Braves general manager, Alex Anthopoulos, confirmed that Cole Hamels had some shoulder irritation, some shoulder weakness late last season, and that may have carried over into his off season, and maybe Hamels overdid it a little bit trying to get ready for this season. 36 years old, it is a little bit of a concern. Only a one-year contract, so the Braves aren't on the hook for a multi-year deal, but I think Hamels was expected to be a top three starter for the Braves, so he won't be ready for opening day, and that is a concern. He'll probably need most of April to get ready for the regular season. But if there's a bright side, it's that, this is happening now rather than later in the season. Maybe Hamels will have more stamina, will be healthier for later in the season. And this also gives the Braves an opportunity to give a shot to some of the veteran pitchers that they invited to spring training on minor league deals, like Felix Hernandez and Josh Tomlin. Either of those two maybe could fill Hamels' spot in the rotation. There are also plenty of other young pitchers that the Braves can give a shot in their rotation. Sean Newcomb, Kyle Wright, Touki Toussaint. I think most of April will probably be spent maybe going in sort of a six-man rotation. Brian Snitker hasn't come right out and said that, but I think you'll see guys maybe skipping a turn, trying to build themselves up, and then hopefully Cole Hamels is ready by the time May rolls around, certainly at some point in the first half of the season, and they get the pitcher that they paid $18 million for.
Yeah, boy, $18 million for 1 year. It's not bad money if you can get it. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys. We're talking baseball headlines presented by our friends at VistaNet Telecommunications. All right, Ian, what are your thoughts on baseball's new reality show type proposal for the postseason? It's like the team with the best record in each league gets like a bye, if you will, and then the two best teams, division winners, they basically can pick which wild card team they want to play. This kind of reminds me of Bud Selig. And, well, you know what? Let's make the All-Star game an exhibition game mean something this time. And that did not work out well. I just think baseball, this to me is a little bit off the rails. But what do you think about this? You know, Manfred's always trying to come up with ideas, and I just wonder if he's floating this out there just to take the temperature, which seems to be kind of chilly right now.
Yeah, I've often given Rob Manfred credit for being, the great listener and listening to every idea. No idea is a bad idea, maybe, but I think this is a bad idea. I think it may also be a terrible idea. You have to wonder sometimes if Rob Manfred actually likes baseball, because this is so drastic. You use the term reality TV, and I think this is what this is really all about. I mean, are we going toward a playoff format that is basically geared around a selection show, like the NCAA tournament, where a team picks their playoff opponent? So are we doing all this so that, on some Sunday night, Brian Cashman could get up there and say, we want to play the Tampa Bay Rays in the first round? Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. I'm usually not in favor of adding more playoff teams. Now you'd have 7 in each league, 14 overall, so that's basically half the teams in Major League Baseball. Baseball was arguably the one sport where the regular season still mattered because fewer teams made the playoffs. Now, I can see the argument where maybe this makes the regular season a little more exciting because more teams are in the hunt. But also, I think you are potentially creating situations where teams aren't necessarily going to go for having the best record in baseball. I mean, you want to finish as the top team in baseball, so you have that first round bye and you don't have to get in this mess with the best of 3 in the wild card round. But if you are, say, the second or third team, what's really the difference between being that team and being the 6th or 7th? That could be the difference between a team, say, going for 85 wins or trying to really push toward 90 and 91 to get home field advantage in the playoffs. It feels like it devalues the regular season to me. I know some people will also say it discourages tanking, but if you really want to stink, I don't think there's anything that's going to still stop a team from, having 100 losses if they're not even in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, that's the thing, is a lot of the worst teams in baseball, they really don't need to tank because they're not in competition with, pretty much themselves, basically, if you suck that bad. What's interesting, I'm okay with the expansion of more teams in the playoffs. I mean, baseball is different. You're right, from the NBA, from the NFL, from, the NHL, they all pretty much half the teams make the playoffs. I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering, I just find it coincidentally in that Rob Manfred, okays the usage of marijuana, and then like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, he comes up with this, which tells me he's probably indulging a little bit. Because when I saw this, it was just like, what? Meanwhile, this was really, I thought, hilarious. Reds pitcher Trevor Bauer shredding Commissioner Manfred on the very idea of the teams choosing who they will play in the postseason, basically saying Manfred doesn't know a thing about baseball. He is the commissioner, we should point out. He probably knows a thing or two, but have other players spoken up? What's like the players' union thinking about all of this?
I think the players' union is going to be okay with this because more teams would make the postseason, and there's a better chance for playoff shares and so forth. Especially if it helps. This may help free agency in the long run if more teams consider themselves in the hunt for a playoff spot. We won't have as many teams deliberately trying to lose. I don't know how they feel. I haven't seen any quotes about this yet other than Trevor Bauer, but I do think there's something about, you play a 162-game season, and to have it potentially come down to a best-of-3 series, and I realize now we have, for some teams, it comes down to a one-game playoff with the wild card. And again, to play that many games in baseball, for shortening the regular season not to be part of this discussion is another thing that I think is very troublesome.
Yeah, I was just going to go there. I'm like, well, why don't they just shorten the regular season? And, kids back in the day, up until I think 1961, it was the Major League regular season was 154 games. But as you may be surprised to hear, they put it up to 161 games. That's why Roger Maris, tying Babe Ruth's record, had an asterisk by it all these years, because he did it in 161 and then Babe did it in 154. I just think for the benefit of the players, for the benefit of the game long term, cut it back, take off 10 games and expand the postseason. That's a real reward, as well. I mean, and then the players who don't make the playoffs, well, they're not, they get 10 games, they don't have to play. They'll take it. Right. You don't want to burn these guys out.
Yeah, and I think we're increasingly seeing that that's indeed what's happening, is that players are getting burned out. We just talk about how the Dodgers are kind of exercising load management on their pitching staffs. I mean, I think it's why we won't see as many 20-game winners, for instance. I think fewer pitchers are going to make 32 starts, 33 starts in a season. Fewer players are going to play 162 games, as more and more research analytics, saying that, after a certain amount of games that players are less effective, or, that increases their chance for injury. I am a little bit concerned that those sorts of discussions aren't coming up now, rather than, again, you mentioned reality TV, that they have this game show on a Sunday night, yeah, where,
it's like Ryan Seacrest hosting, or like Jeff Probst from Survivor.
That's probably what's going to happen. At least give us Alex Trebek, right? If you're going to do this. But yeah, to have, somebody, holding, like a stick microphone, and all right, who are you going to choose as your first round playoff opponent? Boston Red Sox, go.
Oh, God, stop. I'm trying not to throw up in my mouth when I hear all of this. Anyway, we'll see where it goes. I don't think it's going to get much, I can see him extending, the number of teams in the playoffs, but, this wonky reality show format, I don't know if that's going to fly. If Trevor Bauer represents at least half of the, Major League Baseball players with that opinion. Ian, thanks, buddy. As always, we appreciate you. Got lots of NFL goodies to go over, and we can't wait to catch up with you on that tomorrow.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Pat.
You got it. Me too, buddy. Thank you, Ian. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys, and talking some Major League Baseball headlines presented by VistaNet Telecommunications.